to the first episode of the Home One podcast, where we talk about everything and anything related to Star Wars, including Star Wars news, movies, TV, books, anything really. So
we're gonna get into books.
We might. I don't know. I'm still a little bitter about the books being not canon anymore. So
comic books,
maybe. I mean, there's great comic books out right now for Star Wars. So this is Mike. I will be your host normally on the Home One podcast here. And with me today is Zach.
Hi, I'm Zach. I was the one talking in the background.
He was, yes. And this is going to be, again, the first episode of the Home One podcast. For those of you who don't know what Home One is, I'm going to briefly talk about that since Zach didn't know what it was.
Briefly.
He didn't think that people would know what Home One was. So
I still don't think people will know.
So Home One is basically a Mon Calamari cruiser from Return of the Jedi. It was the big ship that Admiral Akbar was on when they had...
Trap.
Exactly. It's Trap Guy with the big eyes. And he basically, it was his flagship for the Battle of Endor, and that was where they kind of got in that meeting room with the cool Death Star 2 plans, and they were like, oh, I'm going to join your landing party, Han Solo.
That when they talked about all the Bothans dying?
Yeah. Yeah, that was where they announced that the Bothans Manny Bothans had died.
Manny.
He died. Manny Bothans, yep.
Manny Bothans.
He was a great person.
He was
whose
a great
name was
Bothan.
Manny Bothan. Anyways, so today we are in our first episode here. We are a couple weeks out from the premiere of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I dislike that little subtitle there, but we're going to roll with it. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And so we're going to really talk a lot about speculation of what we think is going to happen with the movie, maybe stuff that'll happen because of the movie. I'm just general speculation in general.
I feel like the stuff that's going to happen because of the movie is all kind of already in place, though.
Yeah, it's true. We'll talk about that a little bit. So, anyways, Zach, we just watched we recapped all the trailers that have come out so far, or at least the ones we could find on YouTube.
Pretty sure it was like half the movie that we just watched.
Zach, what are your initial thoughts? How are you feeling about this movie coming out here?
I am super excited about this movie. I'm trying to keep reservations low just because, and this is going to be a bad comparison, but I'm going to make it anyways. I was so stoked for Suicide Squad when it came out.
Fair. Yeah.
And the trailers were amazing for Suicide Squad.
They were so well put together. Yep.
Feel the same way about Rogue One. That being said, this is Disney.
Yeah.
This is Disney we're talking about here. And seriously, when was the last time Disney made just a crap movie? There's been below average, okay movies, but Disney doesn't make bad movies.
That's fair. Whereas the DCEU has made a string of very, just inconsistent movies, we could call them. So I guess we need to temper expectations that way too. But yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm very hopeful, especially ever since the first Rogue One full trailer came out. I've been just impressed by how they're trying to connect the two movies, which we'll get into a little bit here, and just the look of it. Looks really cool.
Yes,
so hopefully that tone will carry through to the movie itself. But I mean, I don't know. At the same time, though, this is a Star Wars standalone movie, which I hope everybody who goes to the theaters will realize. It's not Rey and Finn's next adventure. It's a standalone movie before
there's
going to
be that one person that's like, what the heck?
Oh, there'll be probably 10.
And there's dozens of us. Dozens! And everybody else is going to be like, do you watch TV?
Yeah, do you know what's going on here?
Are you on the internet before you do things in life?
There's a lot of people that aren't, apparently. So
I guess.
Good for them. But so I hope that everything kind of goes well. But honestly, I mean, at the same time, I'm excited for this, but I'm really excited for Episode 8. So I think that's, nothing's really going to, if this is a little bit less impressive than I expect it to be, I'm still going to be super excited for Episode 8. So, regardless of that, as soon as we watch this a couple times in theaters, I'll jump straight to Episode 8 news.
Automatically go to a couple times.
That's the thing.
Because of course it's going to be.
There's no speculation that goes on after this. It's just
there's review after it and how it lived up to the expectation.
Right. But as far as story is, we know what happened. They killed the Death Star, obviously.
Well, that's
Luke
part
did a
of
few
this.
things. Yeah.
I think that's part of it, and I think that's why I even think that's why you're kind of like Episode 8, because it's unknown, whereas this very much has an end.
Right.
That we already know.
Right.
And whether or not there's an end to the characters. I mean, we can talk about this maybe at a later time, but about, are these characters, do they live through this movie?
I hope not. But we'll get
It's
into
kind
that
of
later as
horrible
well.
to say, but at the same time, you kind of get that feeling, and you're like, you almost feel like you'll be let down if they don't die.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. So, anyways, getting into our first topic of discussion here. So, in the trailers we saw Darth Vader's there, and that's pretty awesome. I mean, in a smaller little role, Jimmy Smits is reprising his role as Bail Organa, who is famous for being Princess Leia's father and that guy who ran away when kids were getting killed at the Jedi Temple. So, also, the girl who played Mon Mothma for like 2 seconds in Episode 3 is going to revive her role as Mon Mothma in this one. As long as she sounds kind of like Mon Mothma, convinces me a little bit, I'm fine, whatever. But the big thing is Darth Vader. I mean, we've seen Darth Vader kind of grow up. These stories have largely been about him and his family. So the inclusion of him is important. Now, Zach, what do you think about, I mean, James Earl Jones is going to be doing his voice again, so it's the classic Vader voice. I mean, we had Hayden Christensen in the suit for like 2 seconds at the end of Episode 3, and then obviously we had 2 different actors. I think it was only 2 who did his movements and everything like that. I think it was David Prowse and Sebastian Shaw, if I remember correctly. But, I mean, those are the ones who did his movements and everything like that in the later episodes. And this is honestly a fairly close timeline tie-in between those 2 movies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think? Are you worried about kind of the portrayal of Darth Vader? Are you excited that he's in the movie? What do you think? What do you want from him?
Excited, yes. I'm not concerned about the portrayal of it just because he is literally the number 2 guy in this. And so of course he's in it. I think if you left him out of it, there would be even more uproar about like how we understand that we're trying to move away from the Skywalker family in just that strict storyline, but how do you leave a guy who was basically in charge of building the Death Star? How do you leave him out of a movie about the Death Star?
That's fair.
I don't think you can do it. I don't think it's physically like relevantly possible to do that.
Right.
That being said, I've always been a proponent. I think you should have just put Hayden in the suit. I don't even care if he's if it's not actually his voice. Right. I think it would have been a great throw to the audience. Also, I just don't feel like he's got a lot going on right now, so why not?
Well, maybe it's because I don't trust him as an actor, but yeah,
I just got to move. Can you walk convincingly?
Right.
Sure.
And you brought up a good point. I mean, even with the whole, we've never seen these characters before, does that mean they're all going to die during this movie, or are they just going to be kind of side characters or in different spots for, what's going to come in, A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and everything like that? You said he was the number 2 guy. You're talking about Ben Mendelsohn's director, Orson Krennic, right?
Who?
The guy in the white? You said he's the number 2 guy.
No, I'm talking obviously. Obviously, in regards, Darth Vader is the number 2 too.
Oh, you're talking the Emperor.
The Emperor.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're saying,
I'm saying overall, in regards to the Empire,
that's fair.
He is the number 2 guy.
And at the same time, I think that maybe we won't see. My guess is that we're not going to see as much of him as we think in this movie.
They're teasing him.
Yeah, because I mean, you're right. It wouldn't make sense for him not to be there, kind of either supervising the construction of the Death Star or doing something if some bad stuff's going down and somebody's trying to steal Death Star plans. Obviously they'd throw him in there and be like, nobody can steal these, man. These are important. But as far as that's concerned, I think he's going to be in there a lot less than we think from the trailers, because I think he's just there as a connective tissue. I think that they put him in the trailers for 2 reasons. Number one, obviously people see Darth Vader, they're going to get excited about that. They kind of want to go to the theaters to see Darth Vader on screen, especially when he's in his younger days and he can actually wield the lightsaber and fight. So the other reason, I think, is because they're showing us, hey, again, this isn't Episode 8. This isn't the continued story of blah, blah, blah. This is back in the heyday of the Empire. And, it's chronologically setting you in place. So I think that, especially with James Earl Jones, getting up in years. I don't know how many more movies he can actually voice Darth Vader. So it's a good time to bring him in if you're going to bring him in any movies. But yeah, I guess you're right. Like, it doesn't make sense for him not to be there.
Yeah.
So I'm not as worried about it, especially if he's not going to be in that many scenes.
No, I think in going back to the Suicide reference, I think we kind of have a Joker situation here.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Of obviously it's, we don't have a completely new Vader and things like that to worry about, but it's definitely a tease. It's definitely drawing old fans in or just kind of the tertiary, off to the side fans that are like, oh, Vader. Awesome. Not huge Star Wars fans, but they see something.
I'll go see Vader. Yeah.
Yeah. They see something that they're familiar with.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. Yeah. So hopefully everything goes well with Vader's appearance in Rogue One, and hopefully James Earl Jones doesn't complain at the end and say that he thought it was going to be more artsy and go and make an emo band out of it. So anyways, so going into just the discussion about this being the standalone movie. I mean, this is Star Wars franchise's first foray into a standalone movie. Like, they've always done the trilogy thing. They're continuing to do the trilogy thing with episodes 7, 8, and 9. And this is also the second time. Well, I guess, this is George Lucas made the first 6 movies. And then they broke form with J.J. Abrams directing episode 7 recently, The Force Awakens. Yeah. So this is going to be directed by Gareth Edwards, and then obviously Rian Johnson is going to be helming episode 8 later, 2 years from now, or next year.
Is it Rian, or is it Ryan?
I don't know. I always said
think it's
Ryan.
Rian.
Okay, we'll just say Rian then, just to humor you.
Oh, thank you.
But Gareth Edwards is going to be the director here. What are your thoughts about kind of tone and just, again, the connective tissue that this is between the trilogies?
So I'm going to go back to something that I had mentioned earlier of this being Disney. We've already seen this done by another Disney property, Marvel. We've had different directors, and they've had different tones, but they've all intermeshed really well.
Yeah.
So you're talking about whose oversight, who's the head of Lucasfilm that's going to be the one looking out over this and going, okay, this is how they each need to interconnect. And yes, Rogue One is going to be a little darker than maybe, the movies with Finn and Rey and stuff like that. It's probably going to be a little darker, but they still need to interact. That's how life is, though. We're talking about, with Rogue One, like, legitimate battle, like, in the midst of battles.
It's a war movie,
pretty consistently. Yeah, this is like the first... To me, it looks like pretty much how Hoth was, except the entire movie.
Yes, I'll take it.
So, yeah, exactly. I'll take that as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a little darker. The tone's going to be a little different. There's going to be a little more urgency with this movie. So, I guess I'm not overly concerned just because I think we've seen that it can be done well. We've seen that it can be done.
Right.
If you have good oversight and good leadership on the top levels and they project that down onto the directors. So I think it'll be fine.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. And you made a great point there too as well, just with the whole oversight thing. Now, obviously, we know that the MCU has Kevin Feige, and he's done a great job kind of tying everything together. DCEU has a few people like that, but they haven't really done, I guess, a ton of great work. Yeah, maybe they've messed it up a little bit even. But, Star Wars has both Kathleen Kennedy, Pablo Hidalgo, and a few other people, up on the top of storyboarding and everything like that, helping to craft the direction of these Star Wars movies. So that's a great point. Like, they do have those people in place. And, again, Star Wars Episode 7, Force Awakens, was not a disappointment as far as a lot of people are concerned.
Yeah.
So I think that we should be able to trust them. Yeah. And again, Gareth Edwards, he's done, really the only big movie that I've seen him do was Godzilla. He started off with Monsters.
Which Monsters is an extremely good.
Yep, but it's smaller,
visual
obviously.
Movie.
Yep.
It's story based.
Yep.
But also very impressive visually.
Yeah.
But, I've liked what I've seen from him thus far. Godzilla wasn't as story based, but it had great visuals, and that's what
Halo jump.
Yeah.
Halo jump.
That's what we're seeing out of the trailers though, is some very impressive visuals and just picture and filmography and
Yeah,
stuff
it's
like
really
that.
got everything. I mean, there's space battles, there's drama, there's talking, there's land battles, there's walkers, although they're slightly different from the walkers we've seen before probably for toy making reasons, and that's about it. But
They'll say something like, "These are the desert walkers," or "These
Yeah.
are walkers for walking through water."
no, they're I forget what they're called. They're AT somethings, but they're actually troop transports.
Oh, yeah,
they're
that's
not
definitely
the
toy sales.
all-terrain armored transports. The AT-ATs, the AT-ATs, however you swing. So okay, that's fair. Yeah,
I swing.
I mean, again, they're gonna have to do a good job, kind of setting the tone in the movie. But from all trailers that we've seen in TV spots and everything, it basically looks like the Saving Private Ryan of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, guys probably aren't going to be walking around picking up their arms, but
Yeah, hopefully. I mean,
mostly
we'll see.
because it's PG-13,
I mean, there's a couple robots in there, droids. They might be having their arms blown off, so
possibly.
that's fair. Okay, yeah. So I think kind of one of the last things I want to talk about, kind of wrapping up the Rogue One discussion at least. I mean, anything in the trailers that you saw that specifically intrigued you that you want them to hopefully flesh out in the movie, or just like if the film does this, then you would consider it a success. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have several thoughts on this actually.
Good. I'm glad.
I need to pull up.
That'd be a quick bit if you didn't have any thoughts.
Yeah, I have several thoughts. Yeah, I mean, when we get down to it, like we're talking about, this needs to be a war movie in the Star Wars universe. Yep. I think it will be a success if they focus on that, which by all reasoning, by the trailers, that's what they seem to be focusing on, is this small group, Saving Private Ryan style, kind of just they're the ones doing their thing. Like, all hope is on these 5 people and a droid. I don't know how many people it actually is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think if they focus on that, that's a side of Star Wars that we've seen briefly in other movies, but hasn't been really hashed out about basically the little people of the non-force sensitive and generals and stuff like that of Star Wars, like the lower level, almost probably
grunts,
not espionage, but sort of, kind of espionage
Manny
style.
Bothans and at all.
Yeah. And I guess if I'm talking about a character, it's Donnie Yen's character.
Yes,
of course it's Donnie Yen's character. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name.
I want to say it's
Sharut.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Sharut
or Sharut. Yeah,
something like that.
The blind guy with the stick. Yeah.
So
he looks awesome.
I was basically, Donnie Yen has recently, when I say recently, I say in the past like 3 years, come onto my radar, and I watched him through Ip Man and the different movies. I haven't seen the third one, but the first two were good. And he is just a phenomenal martial artist and solid actor. And the idea that he's blind, he's force sensitive, but he's not a Jedi, like all of this coming together, and just the idea that he is still holding on to that basically religion of the Jedi.
Right.
Of, he even says in the trailer, "May the Force be with you," or, the Force is very strong, or something along those lines. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out. And just him just beating the crap out of stormtroopers with his bow staff or whatever it is.
Yeah, he was even shooting a gun, and I don't know how he's shooting it if he's blind.
Just fire in that general
he actually
direction,
missed
please.
them when that shot happened, so.
It'd be funny if he's a better shot blind than most stormtroopers are.
Well, he believes in the Force, so that might have something to do with it. Who knows? So.
Yes, he can feel their midichlorians in their presence.
Let's hope not. That would be terrible. That would be just the worst.
Please, let's never discuss that again.
Fair enough. All right. Well, for me, I guess I'm more of the diehard Star Wars fan than you are.
Oh, yeah, most likely.
A little bit. But I think that the two things that are going to make it or break it for me are, number one, when Darth Vader shows up on screen, I want to believe it's Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. Like, that is something that you can't mess up. And if that means that he has to have less screen time, that's fine. Whatever. It really helps that James Earl Jones is going to be there. But then the second thing is that just, regardless of the acting, the storyline, everything like that, I need it to feel like it fits.
Yep.
Like, I feel like I'll enjoy the ride regardless, because it looks like a fun action movie. That's fine.
Yep.
As long as it doesn't suck, that's cool. But I feel like it needs to feel like it's between episodes 3 and 4. And it's very close, again, in timeline before episode 4. They just, allegedly, they're going to be stealing Death Star plans successfully. Yeah. It's not like a failed mission and then, somebody came in later and grabbed them, and that's how they got them.
Can you explain that further, though? How do you, how do you screw up Darth Vader?
Right. Well, I mean, just anything from, his mannerisms to his look. There's a period between episodes.
You can't, I get what you're saying. You can't adjust his look for ABC reason when we're that close to.
Well, and that's the thing, is that continuity is everything. Now, they destroyed what used to be canon, and is now the Legends category of books and everything like that for a reason, because they want everything to make sense together, storyline-wise, character-wise. So this is the thing. With Darth Vader specifically, he was an amazing swordsman, great Jedi, when he was Anakin Skywalker. Obviously got burned a little bit. I'm sure that messed him up a little bit. He's probably not as physically able to do stuff as before. But we've seen there's Darth Vader comic books and other things. I know I read Aftermath, and there's a couple books that have Darth Vader in them. And Darth Vader is a badass. Darth Vader goes in...
the video games are canon, are they?
No. It depends on what video games you're talking about. Yeah. I think Battlefront is the only one that's actually canon so far. So, and that doesn't really have a storyline in it. But in Aftermath, which is Lost Stars. That's the one that I read.
Yep.
Lost Stars. At the beginning of Lost Stars, there's a bunch of smugglers basically are trying to lead a resistance against the Empire on their planet. Darth Vader basically jettisons himself from his ship through space and
'cause why not?
Goes through an airlock in their big smuggler ship and then proceeds to kill everybody on the ship, very quickly. So physically, there's been lots of depictions of him being a badass right now, okay? Yep. There's no denying that he's super powerful in the Force. He can take on anybody. So, and then obviously in episode 4, when we see him fighting Obi-Wan, they suck. He's still got his fork choke ability and stuff like that. He can fight Luke just fine, but it's not this flashy swordsmanship like we've seen in the older movies. Obviously, that's because they have, what's his name? Nick Gerard or whoever that was, who was a swordplay, instructor, and everything like that in episodes 1 through 3, because they're the prequels and they were made afterwards and everything like that. They did a better job with swordplay and everything like that. Yes. But it has to feel like it's not just because it was an old movie. And so the only conclusion we can come to as Star Wars fans is that he got older and he's less able to do things in his age.
That's a conclusion you can come to, yes. But based on the timeline, I don't believe that conclusion. We are 18 years into the future. Actually, at this point in time, we're only probably 16 years into the future. That's not an extended period of time. Now, if you go back to the fact that, he was burnt and stuff like that, but then you can't use what Lost Stars did and do that kind of stuff then either. So I think we just kind of need to accept that what they had available to them in the late 70s and early 80s just wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I don't want to see Darth Vader just jumping around like Yoda.
Right.
You can have that similar style of basically standing your ground and fighting without a lot of, I think you can do it. I think it can be done, but and still up the ante on his skill and ability.
Right.
Without, really making it too much or going too far.
Right. But it has to feel like it's the same, thing. So
exactly.
And that's the thing, is that the other thing that I have issue with that I'm a little nervous about, just from canon-wise, is that they've introduced some new vehicles and ships already in the trailers that we've seen.
Yeah.
Now, what you see in this Rogue One trailer look like AT-ATs, or the AT-ATs, the armored transports, the camel walkers, as it were, that were on Hoth, and a few.
Do you have any other names
Endor.
for them?
No, just those 4 or 5. So, but these guys, they're actually different, the ones that are in here. And I can't remember what they're called. What are they? I'm trying to look it up real quick right here, but I can't remember. It's, what are they?
They're named something different.
They're named something different. They have a different designation. Either way. But then they have a troop transport for the rebels as well. It's a U-wing. We've never seen that before. Also, they have plenty of different vehicles and like tanks and stuff like that we don't see anywhere else, either in episodes 1 through 3 or 4 through 6. Now, that being said, they even have more stormtroopers. Like, they have like the black colored stormtroopers and the chrome stormtroopers and stuff like that. So, all that being said, like, I just need them to somehow make it still feel like it fits within those trilogies. And the fact that they're bringing those new things in, again, I'm assuming for the fact that they can sell toys around them.
Oh, and you always want to put something new into
fun.
it. Otherwise you run the risk of like, why'd I come to see this movie?
Right.
I know what happens. I know the Death Star gets exploded, so why do I need to know what previously happened?
But at the same time, you kind of aren't supposed to have new stuff in this. Like, you're supposed to have stuff that you saw in episode 4, which is directly afterwards.
I agree, but at the same... Well, I don't really agree because I'm going straight into
fair.
why I don't agree.
That's fair.
This is a war that spanned a galaxy and how many dozens, if not hundreds of planets. You'd have to make the assumption that there's going to be different kinds of troops on different kinds of planets. There's going to be different kind of equipment. I mean, this is an empire that literally made a moon. They made a moon.
They have a lot of money.
So yes, it's not like no. We're going to use all the same equipment everywhere.
But they
Like,
don't
you
have
can
creativity
customize.
because they made 2 Death Stars and then they made a planet into a Death Star.
Yeah,
so obviously they go along the same path.
So
that's fair.
yes, it comes down to, well, why, if these black stormtroopers or death troopers were that much better, why didn't we see them more? And I
Right.
guess you could come down to maybe the rebels surprised them more than they thought they would.
Right.
You know, going back to Robot Chicken Star Wars, you got by a bunch of teenagers. And
Yep.
so
Yeah, it's fair. I see your point, and I agree with you, definitely. All I'm saying is that, obviously, it needs to feel like it fits in between. So if they do that, I would consider it a successful film. So plot be darned and everything like that. As long as it's fun and it feels like it fits, it's good. So wrapping up here, just a quick one more question for you. Now, this is obviously the first standalone movie. We have a Han Solo standalone movie coming out, not next year, but the year after that.
Yep.
And then after that, we have episode 9 coming out. So they haven't officially announced anything beyond that, as far as I know, officially. There's been rumors, especially recently, about a Boba Fett standalone movie, but also how that was kind of tanked after Josh Trank was pulled from the project.
Yep.
So my question for you is, if you could make a standalone movie about any specific character or subject or timeline, that is canon in Star Wars, please let me know what that would be.
Yeah,
and why.
I mean, if we're talking about a real standalone, it would be Boba Fett. Now, that being said, my dream, and I'm curious to hear your opinion on whether or not this becomes kind of a Marvel situation where we start getting more than one movie a year, because I think it's a possibility. I want an Old Republic series.
Yes.
That's what I want. Deep down, that's what I want to see. I honestly don't have a lot of background. Mike has way more background in Star Wars than I do. I'm pretty good with current canon, but in regards to the legacy and stuff like that, but I want to see the Old Republic. Some of those old Sith are so cool.
Yep.
And their backstories, and is it Raven or Revan?
Revan.
Darth Revan. Like, that guy is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so bring some of those guys back. And we've seen thus far that they are willing to take characters out of Legacy and bring them into the canon
Grand
with
Admiral
Star
Thrawn.
Wars. Yeah, with Star Wars Rebels. So they're willing to do it.
That's fair.
I want to see before the rule of two, before there were only 2 Sith, I want to see an epic
Sith Jedi War.
Sith Jedi War. And I want to see the magnificent Jedi temples.
Yeah.
And I want to see all that crazy, like, Knights of the Round Table type situation with Sith and Jedi. That's what I want. Get the guns out of here. I want to see epic, like, battles on the field. Basically, if you've seen any of the old Republic video game trailers where guys are literally, like, lightsabers are getting thrown and guys are jumping over them and stuff like that, and there's crazy force pushing. That's what I want. I don't want the entire movie to be that. I want there to be some backstory. But I want to see an epic field battle between dozens of Sith and Jedi.
That would be pretty cool. I agree with that. So, a little backstory on that. You would probably love to dive into what's now being called Legends even more, because you really even have a surface level of the Old Republic and what you know about that. I mean, there were, in the comics even, there were Sith Jedi wars with the Jedi assisting the Old Republic and stuff like that, where you would have like a Sith general guiding a fleet of Sith ships, and then the general from his flagship would create these gigantic force storms that would literally engulf whole capital ships and destroy them. So they're using their force powers on a massive scale in like ship-to-ship combat and stuff like that. So you would love it. It would be awesome. Unfortunately, like I said, that's now in the Legends category of Star Wars. Again, like you said, they could bring it back because they have before. You never know. My only issue with that is that they would be jumping back in time again. And I'd really love them to just move forward. And there's some kind of cool stuff. Luke Skywalker had a great ancestor named Cade Skywalker. He was more of a bounty hunter or smuggler or something like that, and he also was a Jedi. And he was pretty BA. And they had some pretty cool stories off of that. So that'd be pretty cool. I would love to see, and again, I'm a big fan of the Legends stuff. I would love to see a X-Wing squadron focused movie or two. One of my favorite series in the books that are now Legends was the X-Wing series, and that was with Wedge Antilles. He led a squadron called Rogue Squadron, and they did a bunch of things. They fought a battle around Coruscant. There were giant like planetary shields involved and stuff like that. They went on awesome missions, and even some like covert ops where they were called Wraith Squadron, and they did a bunch of like terrorist stuff and everything like that. And it was a really cool franchise to read. I read it every summer at some point in my high school career, probably. But I would love to see. I mean, we get bits and pieces of that. It looks like we're going to see an X-Wing battle above one of the planets in Rogue One as well. But I'd love to see something not focused around Jedi, but focused around, again, the everyday soldier and the amazing X-Wing pilots. It could even be, some of the pilots that we know from Force Awakens or something like that. But I'd love to see a bunch of missions being run by an X-Wing squadron and seeing how they dealt with war and everything like that. So that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think, this is the thing. And I feel bad about this.
The thing.
I feel bad about this for a few different Disney properties, is they will literally run both this and Marvel into the ground.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that makes me kind of sad. But we're going to have an awesome ride while they do that.
Hopefully.
So that's cool. But I feel like the Jedi and the Sith has been severely under-focused and underutilized.
It's true.
I think they scratched the surface in the new 3 in episodes 1, 2, and 3.
But they got into politics and stuff. It was gross.
It was way too much politics. And even, at the end of episode 3 when Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting, and they're just sitting there and they're literally just spinning their lightsabers around. It was cool, but I was like, what are you guys doing? Hit him in the face.
Finish him.
Yeah, it's just like, come on, get it done. Get it done.
That's
enough
fair.
with the just craziness. I mean, the Darth Maul scene really proved kind of what
seriously
they could do.
Get Ray Park back in
and
there,
that was
man.
the only redeeming quality of episode 1. I don't care what you say.
He
Elijah.
was the best part. Yep. He was the best part of episode 1, to be sure. Him and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon going at it. That was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's still canon. So maybe something about him.
He's still alive. He has robotic legs now.
Yeah,
so
we could
that's
see,
fun.
a standalone for him. Wouldn't surprise me.
Probably won't, but you never know. It's definitely possible. So, all right. That wraps up the first episode here of the Home One podcast. Talk about everything related to Star Wars. Hopefully, in the next couple weeks here, we will watch Rogue One, and we will be very happy. That would be amazing. So, again, this is Mike. That was Zach. And, again, you can find us at cheapshotcinema.com. That's our big brand that we have. And you can find this podcast and others on our YouTube channel, again, at Cheap Shot Cinema on YouTube. And, yeah, check us out. Website, YouTube channel. We're on Twitter and Facebook as well. Come check us out. See what else we have to offer. We got lots of other shows and podcasts that are not specifically related to Star Wars.
Yeah,
so if you like Star Wars
content.
a little bit, but you like movies a lot or TV shows a lot, come check us out and see if you like anything else that we have to offer. So, again, this is Mike and Zach. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great night.
Bye.